Hello everybody, Brad here with the Guitologist, and in today's video we're going to take a look at an amplifier that I've featured a couple of times on my channel before, the Gibson GA-20T Ranger. The Gibson GA-20T Ranger was produced from the late 50s, I think about 1957 or so. They started producing a Ranger, or 58 maybe. They did make a few of them in the two-tone, but most of the ones you see are in the Tweed version. Again, I've featured a couple of these before, but I never got a chance to actually open one up and show that. So in this video, that's what we're going to do. We're going to look around this Gibson GA-20T. We're going to open it up. We're going to do whatever servicing is required. And if that's something that you'd be interested in tagging along with, stick around. This example actually belongs to a customer, and I'm just doing some servicing on it. And it's in a pretty exceptionally clean one. There is one little cosmetic flaw that I've noticed, and that's the logo actually was cracked here, and someone glued that back, and they glued it back just a bit crooked, so you notice that sometimes if you stare at it for a minute. But other than that, I mean, it's very clean. There is a little bit of pitting on the chassis, but it's not too bad, as you can see there. All of the writing though is still pretty crisp. The serial number 38724, that's not a again, this is if you want to compile a list of serial numbers for Gibson and start to date those this way, we could probably go back through some of these and begin to do that, but that information really isn't something that is available online at the moment. So if somebody wants to do that, I've got a lot of Gibson serial numbers recorded and written down, so we could start doing that if you like. Back panel here looks real good. Now we can see, however, the speaker, which is the original Gibson, has been blown according to the customer. So I've advised him that it'd probably be a good idea to have this one reconed. However, I do not currently do reconing as a service. It's just not something I do. So he's going to have to take care of that on his own. But in the meantime, he did want to put something in here. So we're going to select a speaker. He'll probably put this original one in a box and just hold on to it. But you can see there, this is the original Gibson with a 1961 14th week code. And it is a, if we can get the original foot switch out of the way, it is a P12R, with the P standing for Almaco. Good looking speaker. But let's get the back off this thing, and we'll take a look at the guts. One more thing I did want to mention before we go any further. Also, we have a knob here that's not original. You can see this one is knurled, while these have the smooth sides, like the top hat knobs. They came out with these chrome dome knobs in about the 1960 model year. Some of the 1959 GA-20T Rangers that you will see, in 1959 Gibson amps in general, will still have brown chicken head knobs rather than these. I've had both types, and I've sold both types. I no longer own a Ranger, so this will give me a chance to, for old time's sake, also play one at the end of this video. So let's open up this back panel and see what the guts look like. Alright, we're about ready to take this back off, and one of the things I noticed is that the one of the cabinet screws was actually mixed up with the chassis screw. This is the chassis screw, so this one should have gone up here in the middle, and this one should have gone down there. So those two screws being mixed up, that means somebody's been in here. So let's see what we have. And we have some new caps. I see right off the bat. Those are Illinois caps. Here's the inside of the back door. Plywood as always on these old Gibsons from this era. But again, we have some Illinois caps in here. Those really don't have the greatest reputation among amp techs. I'm sure some people out there have good luck with those. I've had mixed luck with Illinois caps, but if something seems to be amiss, I may be more inclined to suspect these caps as a result of them being Illinois caps. Let's just see what we have here and just to kind of admire the circuitry for a second or two. Everything does look pretty clean. There's not a whole lot of dust and stuff in here. A little bit, but not much. I have definitely seen worse. We've got a couple of the original Sprague caps right there. You know, Sprague caps, these big black beauties like this, people just go nuts for them, and they'll pay stupid money sometimes and whatnot. But I mean, I'll be honest with you, I haven't had a whole lot of good luck with Sprague caps. Usually when I open up a piece of equipment and they have these Spragues in them, I mean, honestly, probably about a good 7 or 8 times out of 10, they're bad. That's been my experience. I don't know about you guys, but somebody has replaced the this little electrolytic here. That will be the bias, the bypass cap for the output tube bias. Speaking of output tubes, these will be a 6V6. Yeah, and those look like they are not the original tubes. Those are GEs. The original ones probably would have been RCA. There's one original Gibson tube. But let's pop these off and see what the tubes are. All right, here are tubes. In the V4 position, we have a Gibson by Raytheon, 1961 45th week, 12AX7. So that's in the V4 position. So that's the preamp tube closest to the speaker. Let's look at the V1 position. This is a V1 position is a 12AY7. That looks like GE to me, and it definitely is a GE. This one is probably not original, I'm pretty sure of that. This one looks like an RCA here in V2. Again, it's an RCA. That's the 5879. This one is the magic sauce in this amplifier, if you ask me. This is what makes channel 2 so incredible. The 5879 is a pentode. It's a single pentode. Unlike the 7199s, which were used in some of the other Gibson amps, this is a standalone pentode rather than a pentode and triode in one. So, but this is an incredible sounding tube, and it really is what makes, in my opinion, this amp one of the most sought. It should be one of the most sought after amps of all time. I think it's pretty much still a secret, but I kind of doubt it will be forever because it just sounds too good. Here we see a 1961 13th week, and this is an RCA Gibson 6SQ7, and this is the V3 position. So this would be an original tube, I'm sure, with that Gibson logo there. So those are the tubes. Let's take a look at the original foot switch here. This is the original foot switch. Get these out of the way. The original foot switch is on these. This one is actually just a block of wood. Some of these are made like of a Bakelite almost material, but this one is carved from a block of wood. Big hole drilled here to accommodate the switch. A hole drilled back this way to accommodate the cord, and a hole drilled this way downward to accommodate the switch protruding from the top. So a little bit different than some of the other later foot switches from Gibson, and actually some of the earlier ones too, I think, were different than this. Some were Bakelite. I may be mistaken on that, but in any case, this one is a block of wood. So that's the original foot switch. Another thing I always like to kind of point out and look for on these older Gibsons is the choice of cabinet material. You'll see there the baffle looks like it's like a standard birch plywood baffle, but the side here on this side is looks like the redwood that we've seen on so many other Gibson amps that I've featured on my channel. This side looks like redwood, however, and the bottom looks to me like redwood. However, this side over on the other side has a grain more like birch. See that grain there? That is not indicative of redwood. So this is an odd one. This is kind of a transition, it looks like, between a solid redwood cabinet like we've seen in a lot of the earlier Gibson amps and a plywood, more standard plywood birch cabinet that you would see on the later ones. You can see there it's kind of got a bit of a crack on this inward ply. Kind of hard to see, but there is a bit of a crack there. And also a crayon number by the look of it. What does that say? 182T or something like that? 182. Sorry, this is very difficult to maneuver. Yeah, something like that. There's a crayon marker there. But yeah, very interesting that there would be half of the cabinet built of the birch plywood over on this side, and then you would still have what looks to me like, at least, the redwood over on this side. You can see that more straight grain there. So this might be one of the transitional ones, one of the last ones built that featured any of the redwood that Gibson was using on their amps up until this time. Okay, I have dialed this GA-20T Ranger up on a Variac slowly, just to make sure everything came up okay. And not only has it come up okay, but the speaker even that the customer claimed was probably blown does not appear to be blown. And granted, I'm just kind of playing this face down on the desk at the moment. But usually I can tell when something is blown, like a speaker, when it's out on the desk, just, you know, playing a guitar through it. But it does not appear to be blown in the least. I think what the problem is, and as you know, it's kind of hard to hold this camera and play at the same time, but trust me, it is actually sounding okay. But I think what the problem may be is you see how close in proximity this tube right here is to the bell of the speaker. I think the vibrations are being sympathetically vibrated in this tube next to it. I noticed that I was wiggling the tube a little earlier. I was getting a lot of scratchiness, so I'm gonna pop these, let this all cool down, and pop these tubes out and spray out all the sockets. I might as well also go ahead and, I was going to say clean the pots, but they actually seem extremely clean already. So man, this is one of those where, honestly, I think the customer was just experiencing something that was a bit isolated, and I don't think it's a major issue. Luckily, I think he's going to get away with not having to replace the speaker and not having to do very much of anything else to this thing. Besides, like I said, just cleaning the sockets. I may go ahead and spray these pots as well, and the input jacks, just to be on the safe side. But while I have the thing, I may as well. But I don't think anything else is going to need to be changed. Those spread capacitors are part of the tremolo circuit. The tremolo circuit's working perfectly as it should. Nice deep tremolo. So yeah, man, I'm going to give this thing a clean, and then when we have a moment that's a little better, we're going to give this thing a listen. Well, I thought since there doesn't appear to be much wrong with this amp, I might as well go ahead and pop the chassis out and just give it a little bit of a clean. I do have a 1 hour minimum on any labor anyway, so I may as well fill up the rest of the hour for the customer just doing a little bit of cleaning. There's a lot of dust in the speaker. I'll clean all this off for him and just kind of give it a wipe down. But I thought this might also give us an opportunity to take a look at the transformers. This one is definitely the original power transformer, but it says GA-20T. You see the 166 code down there, and the rest of the code is unfortunately illegible. That would have been the date code portion. But that is the original power transformer. Here's the original output transformer. It is a GA-2301. 166 manufacturer with the date code of 1961, 14th week. So it gives us a little closer, I guess, more defined date. You'll see what I mean again. Here are these crayon markings. This one up here says 33E by the look of it. This one is 182TP, I think. It was hard to see before. Let's get a light in there. What does that say? 182TB. Yeah. No idea what that stands for. But you'll see also what I mean by the difference in wood. Look at the wood grain on this side, and then look at the wood grain on this side. You see how this is all close grain? This is redwood over here. I'm pretty confident in saying that. This is redwood, and it's probably solid redwood, just like the Gibsons of the 1950s mostly were. This one, you know, again is some kind of birch, probably plywood, I would guess. So it's kind of a mutt transitional cabinet. I would say this gives us a pretty solid date, really, for the discontinuation of using redwood. They were probably really at the end of their redwood reserves if they're resorting to using one piece of redwood on the side and the bottom, and then a different piece on a side of an amplifier like this. I wouldn't think they would do this unless they were running out of the redwood finally. I had always heard that Gibson got this redwood, they recovered it from a downed bridge somewhere out west that was built with redwood. Apparently the thing had been hit by a storm, something like that. The story goes. I don't even remember now where I heard this story. It could be completely false. I have no idea, but I'd always heard that was the case, that it was a downed bridge somewhere out west, and they bought it up for, I guess, pennies on the dollar of what you would normally give for solid redwood, and used it in their amps. Of course, you can't cut new redwood, I think, for the most part, because it's protected species. But you know, if it's an old bridge and it was downed, you know, they could certainly use that, and I think they did. And these are great cabinets as a result. But again, just a weird thing that this side would not be redwood. So this must be a transitional thing. I'm going to clean up the speaker, give it a good spick and span again to fill up the rest of the hour for the customer, and just kind of give him his money's worth. Okay, I've got this thing pretty well cleaned up. I've cleaned out all the tube sockets. I cleaned the inside of the chassis, and so it's pretty spick and span now. I cleaned these tubes off because they were pretty filthy. And one thing I did notice while cleaning these tubes is that these GE power tubes are dated 1961, 30th week. So these may even be original, and they're both matched from the same week. So that tells me that, you know, they very well could be the original tubes, being dated 1961. Also got my paintbrush and just wiped out all the dust on the inside here, what I could get to, and it's pretty clean inside this chassis, really. So yeah, man, this is a really nice example of a 1961 Gibson GA-20T. Let's give it a listen. Okay, here's something I noticed while putting this chassis back in that could account for some of the noises that the customer was hearing with regard to the speaker. First of all, this lead just came right off as if it wasn't even on there very well to begin with. It just kind of popped right off the top. So the solder might have been just a cold solder for this one. This one, notice this is poking through And if you look real closely here, look, it's just almost leaning right up against the speaker. So it is probably rattling against the speaker and causing some noise, I would say. So look at that. Whoever had this out before, I mean, they did an okay job with the overhaul, but when they put the speaker back in, it looks like they may have botched that slightly. So we're gonna have to resolder these in this one anyway. So I'm gonna pull this lead out a little bit and fix that. All right, let's give this thing a listen. I'm in channel 1 and I'm using a Harmony Stratotone Jupiter. Channel 2. Yeah, that's a late 1961 Gibson GA-20T, otherwise known as the Ranger. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Please hit subscribe below for future videos like this, and y'all take care.